Hi, my name is Mathias Katsuya, and this is my presentation for the University of St. Andrews Visualizing Peace project. So much has been said regarding the dominant discourses of peace propagated by international organizations like the United Nations and their primary state supporters. And this is known informally as the liberal peace. It's an approach centered on a top-down, institutionally driven model that's very closely tied to the Western system of territorially based liberal democratic states. It's been employed in a wide variety of settings, ranging from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Colombia, and attacks on its effectiveness have similarly varied in diversity. For the purposes of this presentation, though, I'm going to focus on one particular shortcoming, which I'll delve into in a little bit. But before exploring it, let's first begin by examining the state of affairs in contemporary peacebuilding. Now, despite minor variations in structure and nomenclature, the frameworks employed by today's dominant peacebuilding actors all share a number of key similarities. So, as the model favored by the UK government's Department for International Development shows us, the overwhelming concern remains security from physical violence. And this is demonstrated through, for instance, civilian programs aimed at the eradication of small arms and light weapons trafficking or humanitarian demining, all the way through to the Ministry of Defense's involvement in defense diplomacy. The key idea, though, remains the fact that that 5 of the UK government's 12 conflict resolution, reduction, and prevention themes are centered on negative peace. In other words, an understanding of peace as being primarily the absence of armed conflict. In addition to this, the Japanese government's International Cooperation Agency, which is the entity primarily responsible for the vast majority of the government's official developmental assistance, emphasizes the importance not only of security, but also on peacebuilding cooperation across institutions. So while there is, for instance, the emphasis placed on arms control and peacekeeping conducted by military entities, there's also a very prominent role played by political and economic civilian institutions through, for instance, the provision of humanitarian aid or assisting in conflict resolution across the spectrum of peacebuilding operations. Finally, the third key trend or similarity is a growing emphasis placed on community involvement. So here we have, for instance, the UN's Community Violence Reduction Framework, which forms part of their disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration programs. And it really stresses the need to ensure that local participation and decision-making is included at all stages of the DDR process. So with all this in mind, it's very tempting to ask, okay, but what in theory is missing? And in my opinion, the answer reveals perhaps the greatest irony of contemporary peacebuilding, and the fact that there is an overwhelming lack of emphasis placed on identifying, addressing, or leveraging the psychological and cognitive factors that lay behind peace and conflict. Now, there's two primary ways in which research into behavioral psychology and cognitive science can be exploited in the field of peacebuilding. And before we proceed, I'll just briefly outline them and draw a distinction between the two. So the first is psychological operations. So these refer to planned activities to convey selected information, indicators, and narratives to audiences in order to influence their perceptions, attitudes, and behaviors. Next, we have psychosocial interventions, which encompass psychological and educational components to assist individuals in establishing, reinforcing, or reacquiring key emotional, social, and cognitive skills. The primary distinction between the two is that while psychological operations seek to target perceptions, beliefs, and attitudes in order to modify behavior, psychosocial interventions seek to modify behavior directly through the provision of education. Both of these tools, though, both psychological operations and psychosocial interventions, are vital for any peace builder. And in contrast to the frameworks that we saw earlier, seek to foster resiliency within individuals, not institutions. But the problem is that such efforts are overwhelmingly absent from the vast majority of post-conflict peacebuilding operations, with one report published by the UN's Institute for Disarmament Research describing these efforts as improvised, uncoordinated, and not directed in support of a common mission goal. Now, many of these shortfalls are due to a lack of trained personnel, of resources, but a large part of it is also simply down to a matter of perception. Both psychosocial interventions and psychological operations are oftentimes seen as standing in direct contrast to the purported neutrality of an international peacebuilding effort at best, and at worst, as being the activity of either authoritarian regimes or just blatant propaganda. The reality is that both of these are very dangerous misconceptions, and by subscribing to them, we only serve to deprive peace builders of a tool that has had a demonstrable effect on peace building. Now, let's see what this looks like. So the first step of any peacebuilding effort, as seen from the framework we saw earlier, is the reduction of armed violence. It's a necessary precondition in order for subsequent efforts, be they aimed at reconciliation or reconstruction, in order for them to take place. In Uganda, members of the Lord's Resistance Army, under the direction of Joseph Kony, engaged in a campaign of insurgent violence against the national government. Kony was a former Catholic altar boy, and he was known for his blend of mysticism and sheer brutality. A large portion of the LRA's fighting strength was composed of child soldiers, and so the group would enter into villages, take adolescents and children, and force them to commit acts of violence against their own community, effectively rendering them irredeemable and creating a very powerful deterrent against defection. The results of this very public brutality was Operation Observant Compass. It was an American-led effort to assist the Ugandan government primarily through the provision of psychological operation support. And so working alongside a local NGO called Invisible Children, which was run by former LRA child soldiers, these psychological operations specialists disseminated messages in the form of leaflets and radio broadcasts from LRA defectors, and also, very importantly, from members of the local communities. These narratives focus not simply on assurances of safety for these defectors, but also, most importantly, they centered on messages of forgiveness. So these individuals were individuals in the LRA were promised that they would be welcomed back and reintegrated into their families, despite having committed acts of violence against them. And in doing so, this campaign offered these individuals a sense of hope. It made them believe that hope existed for peace, not only for themselves, but also for their communities. As one such message asserted, it's better to spend Christmas at home than in the jungle. And it ultimately proved highly effective. The LRA experienced mass defections over the subsequent years, and it really demonstrated the effect of a carefully selected and deployed narrative in promoting behavior that forms ultimately the key cornerstone of any peacebuilding effort, and that is the end of ongoing armed conflict. The case study of Rwanda next illustrates the midterm priority of contemporary peacebuilding efforts, and that is the need to promote reconciliation within post-conflict communities. So the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide has seen numerous efforts at the institutional level to repair relationships between Hutu and Tutsi communities. One of these included, for instance, the Gakaka courts, which was a attempt to essentially promote justice within established local structures and traditions. But while Rwanda is undoubtedly today a peaceful state in that physical security is assured, it's far from a nation at peace, and this is reflected by a continued lack of social trust and perspective taking, or a willingness by the country's ethnic groups to consider an adversary's understanding of a conflict. And so one tool that's actually been employed to overcome this psychological barrier, which is oftentimes fueled by fear at having to expose oneself to the perspectives and experiences of a previously hostile other, one tool that's been very useful has been radio soap operas. And so one program, for instance, called Musikeweya, or New Dawn, includes a narrative that's centered on a character called Batamudiza, and she's a bridge builder. She seeks to reestablish bonds between her fictional village and an adversarial community in the aftermath of a very violent conflict. And so one study that was conducted found that by exposing individuals to this radio soap drama and effectively priming them with key phrases, references, and questions posed by Batamudiza, participants formed mental connections between their own attitudes towards an opposing ethnic group's perspectives and the bridging character and behavior of Batamudiza. And this in turn prompted individuals to serve as bridge builders themselves by engaging in historical perspective taking and by demonstrating an increased willingness, even if unconscious, to engage with the perspectives of a previously opposing group. And so this, for instance, just marks another example of leveraging narrative and psychology, facilitated once again through mass media, to promote individual behaviors that serve to advance peace building. In this case, you have the promotion of reconciliation within communities. And the final example we come to are the children of Pakistan's Swat Valley. It's been a site of extensive conflict between violent extremist groups like the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, so TTP, and the Pakistani government. And this example illustrates the ultimate aim of any peacebuilding endeavor, and that's ensuring the sustainability of peace among subsequent generations. Key to this has been the work of the Sabon Center. It's a civilian de-radicalization facility targeting teenage members of violent extremist organizations and other at-risk youth. And their approach seeks to address not only the structural push factors, such as a lack of employment skills or um, a lack of religious education through the provision of vocational and theological courses, but also the underlying psychological pull factors that render individuals susceptible to participating in these violent acts. And key among these, for instance, is the notion of integrative complexity. It's a measure of one's ability to differentiate and integrate multiple perspectives on an issue. And so the Sabon Center created a four-stage process to promote perspective taking and assist future generations in developing the cognitive skills needed to challenge the very simplistic narratives that violent extremist groups employ to recruit and perpetuate conflict. And so this has had a very tangible effect. There have been no reports of recidivism or participation in violent activity by youth who've graduated from the center's program. And once again, it offers an example of a concrete strategy to transform short-term progress made by peace building into a long-term reality that is perpetuated by subsequent generations. So ultimately, this all really begs the question, what's needed? And the answer to that is equally simple, and that's coherence. All of the examples listed above are instances of quantifiable gains made possible by leveraging an understanding of narrative and psychology in service of peace building. But the problem is that while all these cases demonstrate individual instances of success, what's equally glaring is an utter absence of any overarching framework to guide practitioners and policymakers in the integration of psychological operations and psychosocial interventions at all stages of the peacebuilding process. And ultimately, that's precisely what I hope to remedy through my subsequent report, which will be completed as my final contribution to visualizing peace this semester. And that is reinforcing and is ultimately reinforcing and illustrating a very simple, albeit oftentimes neglected truth of peace building. And that is win the mind, win the day, and in doing so, win the peace. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my presentation. My bibliography is here if you'd like to take a look. And thank you so much.